So these pieces are all basically the most recent evolution of my work. All of them, including the one that's behind me, they're all based on the idea of combining classical elements, the rough, the Dutch still life flowers, the diamond, the sketch, the classical sketch with both the white and the dark charcoal, and those kinds of classical images combined with what is 1920s inspired, the pie eyes, the hair, the graphic element of basically cartoon and character design. And I'm more willing to abandon the human figure as a whole and combine them with images that are recognizable and realistic, as opposed to trying to just place the characters in a situation where they're in the environment of. Now they've taken a more, at least in these pieces, a more central focal point, as opposed to being part of the background or just part of the scene. So for the longest time, when I was still painting animals, I was really interested in several different themes of clothing, and the most prominent one being 18th century Rococo and that kind of a thing. I became very obsessed with ruffs. I have a couple of them, so I actually have physical reference. I have a ruff that looks just like this. That, ironically, I bought at Ikea, of all places, but it's great reference for the actual detail of the ruff, because it's so chaotic. It's not like the Elizabethan ruffs or the really classical ruffs that are very stiff and formulaic and exact. This one is very chaotic. The fact that this is more of a, I don't know what you would call this. You could relate it to, like, a pirate shirt per se, very loose, the big bell sleeves, made of like a muslin cotton, loose fitting tie at the neck with the collar. Anything that's more Renaissance, Rococo, 18th century, or even older has always kind of fascinated me. And what's interesting is it feels like when you draw these kinds of things in these classical ways, that they fit together, because this is what we are all used to seeing. When you see a Michelangelo drawing, a Leonardo drawing, whatever the case, and you see the drapery, it's always based on these older, archaic forms of clothing that you don't see now. You just don't see them anywhere. You don't see them in a lot of artwork. You see more classical clothing. And I kind of wanted to reference these a little bit more because I find them more interesting. I think that cartoons are wonderful because they can be both very, very sexual and completely asexual at the same time. They can be very lewd and almost they're almost more accepted when they're lewd. Like cartoons they seem less, I don't know, harmful, detrimental. People are more willing to look at a cartoon that is sexual than they are a naked woman that's being sexual. People just, I don't know, they just relate to it more, or they feel more comfortable with it. It seems more benign, it seems more pop culture, more, less reality, more fantasy. You have hentai and all that kinds of stuff with anime and sex and pornography, and it always seems very like innocent and very not like what sex can be, which is very visceral and in your face. Whereas things like this, even though they're sexual, they're also very benign in nature because of the way they're being portrayed as almost this sketch, drawing, doodle, that all of a sudden they lose that charge of being in your face, I guess. I mean, they're in your face, but in a very kinder, gentler way.